What would you do if you saw someone being kicked and humiliated in public and everyone just watched? Would you stay silent, or would you be the one person who stands up? If you're loving this story already, please hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Viral Tales. We want to hear from you too. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our viewers around the world. The sound of breaking glass cut through the peaceful dinner atmosphere like a knife. Maya Thompson's heart stopped. The wine bottle she had been carrying slipped from her trembling fingers and shattered across the marble floor of Riverside Grill, splashing red liquid everywhere. No, 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 she whispered, staring at the mess. But the worst part wasn't the broken bottle. The worst part was where some of the wine had landed, right on the white shirt of Mr. Victor Hartley, the most feared businessman in the entire city. Maya felt her whole world crumbling. She had been so careful. She had served hundreds of tables before without a single accident. But tonight, someone had bumped her elbow just as she passed by table 7, and now everything was ruined. "I'm so sorry, sir," Maya said quickly, reaching for a cloth. Her hands shook as she tried to help. "Please let me clean." "Don't you dare touch me." Victor roared, jumping to his feet. His face turned red with anger. The entire restaurant fell silent. Every conversation stopped. Every fork froze in midair. All eyes turned to watch. Maya stepped back, her heart pounding so hard she could hear in her ears. "Sir, it was an accident. Please, I didn't mean—" "An accident?" Victor's voice grew louder. "Do you know how much this shirt costs? Do you? More than you make in 6 months, you clumsy fool." Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she forced them back. She couldn't cry. Not here. Not in front of everyone. She was 28 years old, a mother, a hard worker. She had dignity. But Victor wasn't finished. He moved closer to her, his finger pointing at her face. "People like you shouldn't be working in nice places like this. You belong somewhere else, somewhere that matches your level." The words hit Maya like punches. She knew what he meant. She had heard words like these before, hidden behind smiles and polite voices, but never so open, never so cruel, never in front of so many people. "Please, sir." Maya's voice cracked. "I'll pay for the shirt. I'll work extra hours. Just please." That's when Victor did something unthinkable. He kicked over a chair in anger and fell toward Maya. She jumped back, raising her arms to protect herself. "Please stop," she cried out, her voice breaking. "Please stop kicking things at me." The restaurant gasped. Some people covered their mouths in shock, but nobody moved. Nobody stood up. Nobody said a word. Maya felt smaller than she had ever felt in her entire life. She thought about her daughter, little Sophie, only 6 years old, waiting at home with the babysitter. Sophie believed her mother was strong and brave. What would she think if she saw her now? For 3 years, Maya had worked at Riverside Grill. She arrived early every morning and stayed late every night. She took the worst shifts, the difficult customers, the holidays when everyone else wanted to be home with family. She did it all without complaining, because she had a dream. She was saving money to go back to school. She wanted to become a teacher. She wanted to show Sophie that hard work and education could change their lives. But right now, hiding behind the hostess counter while Victor shouted at her, that dream felt very far away. "You know what your problem is?" Victor continued, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. "You think you deserve respect just for showing up, but respect is earned. And people like you will never earn it because you don't understand what real work means." Maya's tears finally escaped. They rolled down her cheeks silently. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. The restaurant manager, Mr. Collins, finally rushed over. But Maya could see in his face. He wasn't coming to help her. He was coming to calm Victor down because Victor was important. Victor was rich. Victor brought other rich friends to the restaurant. "Mr. Hartley, please, let's discuss this calmly," Mr. Collins said in his smoothest voice. "I'm sure we can resolve this situation to your satisfaction." "Your satisfaction?" Victor laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was mean and cold. The only thing that would satisfy me is never seeing her face again. Fire her. Right now. Or I'll make sure every important person in this city knows what kind of incompetent staff you hire. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Fired. If she lost this job, how would she pay rent? How would she buy food for Sophie? How would she keep saving for school? Mr. Hartley, perhaps we can... Mr. Collins started to say. Fire her. Victor shouted again. That's when Maya noticed something. In the corner of the restaurant, at table 18, there was a man. He had been eating dinner alone, wearing simple clothes, just jeans and a regular shirt. Nothing fancy, nothing special. She had served him many times over the past few months. He always ordered the same meal, always smiled kindly, always left a good tip. But now he wasn't eating. He was watching, and his eyes weren't like the other customers' eyes. The others looked shocked or uncomfortable or curious. But this man's eyes were different. They were calm but intense, like he was seeing everything and thinking deeply about it. His name was Thomas, though Maya didn't know that yet. She didn't know anything about him, except that he seemed nice and quiet. Thomas slowly put down his fork. He reached for his napkin and carefully wiped his mouth. Then he stood up, not quickly like he was rushing, not slowly like he was scared, just normal, like he had made a decision and was going to follow through with it. Something about the way he moved made several people turn to look at him. Even Victor stopped yelling for a moment. Thomas started walking toward table 7, toward Maya, toward Victor, toward the mess of broken glass and spilled wine and broken dignity. Maya watched him come closer, her heart beating fast for a different reason now. Who was this man? What was he going to do? Was he going to make things worse? Was he going to yell at her too? As Thomas got closer, Maya noticed something in his eyes. It wasn't pity. It wasn't anger either. It was something else. Something that made her feel, just for a second, that maybe she wasn't completely alone in this horrible moment. Victor turned to face Thomas, his face still red with anger. And who are you supposed to be? Victor demanded. Another incompetent employee coming to defend this disaster? Thomas stopped a few feet away. He looked at Victor. Then he looked at Maya. Then he looked around the entire restaurant at all the silent, watching people. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but somehow everyone could hear it clearly. I saw exactly what happened, Thomas said simply, and I think we need to talk about it. The restaurant held its breath. Maya held her breath. Even Victor seemed surprised that someone had actually stood up. What happened next would change everything. But at that moment, Maya didn't know that yet. All she knew was that for the first time that terrible night, someone had spoken up for her. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change a story from a tragedy into something else entirely. Victor stared at Thomas like he was looking at an annoying bug. Talk. Victor laughed in that mean way again. What could you possibly have to say that matters? Look at you. Cheap jeans. Faded shirt. You probably can't even afford to eat here without counting your pennies. Thomas didn't react to the insults. He just kept that same calm look on his face. I saw a customer bump into Maya's elbow right before the bottle fell. He said clearly, it wasn't her fault. It was an accident caused by someone else's carelessness. Maya's eyes went wide. He knew her name. But more than that, he had seen what really happened. She had been so focused on a disaster that she hadn't even realized someone else had caused it. I don't care whose fault it was. Victor shouted. The wine ended up on my shirt. That's what matters. And she should have been more careful. That's what servants are supposed to do. Be invisible and perfect. The word servants hung in the air like poison. Several people in the restaurant shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But still, nobody else stood up. Nobody else spoke. She's not a servant, Thomas said, his voice still quiet but somehow stronger. She's a hard-working woman doing her job with dignity. Something you clearly don't understand. Victor's face turned even redder. How dare you speak to me like that? Do you know who I am? I own half the buildings in this city. I have connections everywhere. One phone call from me and what? Thomas interrupted gently. You'll prove you're powerful by destroying someone who can't fight back? Is that what makes you feel important? The restaurant was so quiet now that Maya could hear her own breathing. She looked at Thomas with wonder. Who was this man? Why was he risking Victor's anger for her? Strangers didn't do things like this. Not in real life. Mr. Collins, the manager, stepped between them, his hands raised like he was trying to calm two fighting dogs. Gentlemen, please, let's not make this worse. Mr. Hartley, I assure you the restaurant will cover all costs for your shirt and your entire meal tonight. And Maya, he turned to her with cold eyes, we'll discuss your employment status in my office. Maya felt her stomach drop. Discuss my employment status was just a nice way of saying she was fired. 3 years of hard work, of early mornings and late nights, of dealing with difficult customers with smile, all gone because of one accident that wasn't even her fault. That's not good enough, Victor said, crossing his arms. I want her fired now, in front of everyone. I want her to know there are consequences for incompetence. Maya couldn't hold back anymore. I'm not incompetent, she said, her voice shaking but growing stronger. I've worked here for 3 years without a single complaint. I've served you personally at least 10 times, and you've never had a problem with my service before. That's because I never paid attention to you before, Victor shot back. You're supposed to be invisible, remember? That's the whole point. Thomas took a step closer to Victor. Not threatening, just closer. Let me ask you something, Mr. Hartley. When was the last time you apologized for a mistake? When was the last time you showed kindness to someone who couldn't do anything for you? Victor's eyes narrowed. I don't have to explain myself to you or anyone else. My success speaks for itself. Success! Thomas repeated the word like he was tasting it. You call this success? Standing in a restaurant. Yelling at a woman who makes in a month what you probably spend on lunch? Making her cry in front of dozens of people? That's not success. That's cruelty. Something flickered in Victor's eyes. For just a second, he looked uncertain, but then his pride took over again. You're nobody, he said to Thomas. Just another nobody trying to be a hero. Well, let me tell you something. Heroes don't win in the real world. Money wins. Power wins. And I have both. Maya watched this whole exchange feeling like she was in a dream. Thomas was defending her, but she was also terrified. Victor was right about one thing. He did have power. He could make trouble not just for her, but for Thomas too. She didn't want this kind stranger to suffer because of her. Thomas, she said softly. She didn't even realize she had used his name. It's okay. You don't have to. Yes, I do, Thomas said, turning to look at her. And in that moment, Maya saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. It was understanding. Deep, real understanding. Like he knew exactly what she was feeling. Like he had felt it too, sometime in his life. Thomas turned back to Victor. You know what I've learned in my life, Mr. Hartley? That how we treat people when we have power over them shows who we really are. Not our money. Not our fancy clothes or expensive cars. But our character. Character doesn't pay bills, Victor snapped. No, but it lets you sleep at night, Thomas replied. The crowd was completely absorbed now. This wasn't just about a spilled bottle of wine anymore. This was about something bigger. Something everyone understood deep down. It was about fairness, about right and wrong, about whether having money meant you could treat people however you wanted. Maya's mind drifted for a moment. She thought about her daughter Sophie at home. Sophie, who was so smart and curious. Sophie, who asked questions about everything. Last week, Sophie had asked her, Mommy, why do some people have so much money and others have so little? Is it because the rich people are smarter? Maya had struggled to answer. She wanted to tell Sophie that hard work was rewarded, that good people succeeded, that the world was fair. But she also didn't want to lie to her daughter. So she had said, sometimes the world isn't fair, baby. But that doesn't mean we stop being good people. We be good because it's right, not because we expect rewards. Looking at Thomas now, Maya realized he was living that lesson. He was being good because it was right, even though there was no reward for him, even though Victor could make his life difficult. I'm calling my lawyer, Victor announced, pulling out his phone. I'm going to sue this restaurant for employing incompetent staff and for allowing other customers to harass me. Mr. Collins went pale. Please, Mr. Hartley, there's no need for... And you, Victor pointed at Thomas. I'm going to find out who you are, and make sure you regret ever opening your mouth. Thomas smiled then. It was a small smile, but there was something in it that made Maya curious. It wasn't a scared smile. It wasn't even a worried smile. It was almost like Thomas knew something that nobody else knew. You want to know who I am? Thomas asked calmly. I don't care who you are, Victor said. You're nothing. That's all I need to know. Then why are you so angry? Thomas asked. If I'm nothing, why are you threatening to investigate me? Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Victor's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He didn't have a good answer for that. Maya watched Thomas with growing curiosity. There was something about him, something that didn't quite fit. He wore simple clothes and drove an old truck. She had seen it in the parking lot when he arrived weeks ago. He ordered modest meals and seemed to live simply. But the way he spoke, the way he carried himself, the confidence in his voice, it reminded her of someone important, someone used to making decisions, someone who understood power. Last chance, Victor said, his voice low and threatening. Both of you apologize to me right now, or I'll destroy both your lives. I have the resources to do it. Don't test me. Maya looked at Thomas. Part of her wanted to apologize, just to end this nightmare. But another part of her, a part that had been growing stronger during this whole confrontation, refused. She hadn't done anything wrong. Why should she apologize for being human? For making an accident that wasn't even her fault? Thomas looked at Maya. Their eyes met, and in that silent moment, they both understood each other. They both made the same decision. No, Maya said firmly. I won't apologize for something I didn't do wrong. Neither will I, Thomas added. Victor's face twisted with rage. Fine. You both just made the biggest mistake of your lives. He turned to Mr. Collins. I want her fired immediately, or I'm pulling my investment from this restaurant. Yes, that's right, I'm one of the owners. And I want this man banned from ever eating here again. Mr. Collins looked sick. He turned to Maya with apologetic eyes. Maya, I'm sorry, but I have to let you go. Please collect your things and... Wait, Thomas said. Just one word. But something in his tone made everyone stop. Thomas reached into his pocket slowly. Maya held her breath. Victor watched with suspicious eyes. Mr. Collins looked confused. Thomas pulled out a simple wallet. From it, he took out a business card. Just a plain white card with black writing. He held it out toward Victor. Before you make any more threats, Thomas said quietly, you might want to know exactly who you're threatening. Victor snatched the card roughly. He looked at it. His eyes widened. All the color drained from his face. His hand started to shake slightly. That's not possible, Victor whispered. You're Thomas Chin? Maya had never heard that name before, but the way Victor said it, with shock and fear, told her it was important. Thomas nodded once. I am. The restaurant erupted in whispers. People pulled out their phones, typing frantically. Mr. Collins grabbed the card from Victor's trembling hand and read it. His face went white, too. Maya stood there, completely confused. Who was Thomas Chun? And why did everyone suddenly look so terrified? Thomas looked at Maya with gentle eyes. I should probably explain, he said softly. Maya, my full name is Thomas Chun. I own Chun Industries. We build hotels, restaurants, and shopping centers across 15 countries. We're one of the largest hospitality companies in the world. Maya felt like the floor had disappeared under her feet. Thomas Chun. She had heard that name before. Everyone had. Chun Industries was huge, massive. They own hundreds of businesses, including some of the most expensive hotels in the world. And this man, this kind stranger in faded jeans who had been eating quietly in the corner for months, was that Thomas Chun? That's impossible, Victor stammered, but his voice had lost all its power. Thomas Chun doesn't eat at small restaurants like this. He doesn't dress like that. Thomas smiled, but it wasn't a mean smile like Victor's had been. It was almost sad. That's exactly why I do it, Mr. Hartley. Because when you have money and power, everyone treats you differently. They smile and bow and say nice things, but you never know who they really are. You never see how they treat people who can't give them anything. He gestured around the restaurant. So I come to places like this, dressed simply, driving my old truck, and I watch. I see how staff members work. I see how managers lead. I see how customers behave when they think nobody important is watching. Mr. Collins looked like he might faint. Mr. Chun, I had no idea. If I had known. That's the point, Thomas interrupted gently. If you had known, you would have treated me special, but you would have still treated Maya the same way. You were ready to fire her just now to please this man, even though you knew it wasn't her fault. Mr. Collins opened his mouth, but no words came out. Thomas turned to Victor, who was now sweating despite the air conditioning. And you, Mr. Hartley, you were right about one thing. You do own buildings in this city. But what you didn't know is that you rent most of your office space from buildings owned by my company. Your entire real estate business operates in my buildings. Victor's face went from red to white to gray. Mr. Chun, please, I didn't know. I would never have. You would never have treated her badly if you knew I was watching. Thomas finished the sentence. But you did treat her badly. You kicked chairs at her. You called her names. You tried to get her fired. Not because you're a bad person when someone important is watching, but because this is who you really are when you think you can get away with it. Maya's heart was pounding. She couldn't believe what was happening. This felt like a movie, not real life. Thomas looked at Maya again. I've been coming here for 6 months, he said. And in that time, I've watched you work harder than anyone else. You're always kind, even to rude customers. You help the younger servers when they're struggling. You stay late when someone needs to leave early for family emergencies. You're exactly the kind of person I look for when I'm deciding whether to invest in a business. Invest? Mr. Collins whispered. Yes, Thomas nodded. I've been considering buying Riverside Grill. I love the food and the location is perfect, but I only invest in businesses where the culture is right, where good people are valued and protected. He looked at Mr. Collins with disappointed eyes. Tonight, you show me that the culture here isn't what I thought it was. Mr. Collins looked panicked. Please, Mr. Chun, this was just one incident. We can fix this. You can start by not firing Maya, Thomas said firmly. In fact, I think she deserved a promotion and a raise and a formal apology from both you and Mr. Hartley. Victor looked sick. Mr. Chun, I apologize. I was out of line. I'll do whatever. Don't apologize to me, Thomas said. I'm not the one you hurt. Apologize to her. Victor turned to Maya, his earlier confidence completely gone. Miss Thompson, I'm deeply sorry. I was wrong. Completely wrong. Please forgive me. Maya stood frozen. This morning, she had woken up worried about paying bills and saving money for school. Now, one of the richest men in the world was defending her, and the man who had humiliated her was begging for her forgiveness. Maya's voice came out as a whisper. She cleared her throat and tried again. I accept your apology, but I need you to understand something. I'm not just a servant. I'm a mother. I'm a student. I'm a person with dreams and feelings. And so is every other person who serves you food or cleans your office or parks your car. We all matter. Tears ran down her face, but they weren't sad tears anymore. They were tears of relief, of pride, of finally being seen as a human being. Thomas nodded approvingly. Well said. He turned to Mr. Collins. I'm going to buy this restaurant. And when I do, Maya will be the new assistant manager. She clearly understands what good service really means. It's about dignity and respect, not just smiling and staying quiet. Maya gasped, Mr. Chun, I don't have management experience. I've never. You've been managing difficult situations with grace for 3 years, Thomas said. That's better experience than any business degree. He paused and added, though I notice you've been taking online classes at night. Business administration, right? Maya nodded, amazed he knew that. My company has a scholarship program, Thomas continued, for employees who want to continue their education. I think you'd be perfect for it. Full tuition, books, everything. and you could adjust your work schedule to attend classes during the day. Maya couldn't speak. She covered her mouth with her hands, tears flowing freely now. This was too much, too good to be true. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Why? She finally asked. Why are you doing all this for me?